Episode 4 of what happened to me in grade 3. So, in grade 3, this is going to be a short one. Grade 3, so I was about 7 or 8 years old. In grade 3 was the grade where I started to realize how poor my family were, or maybe it was just about that time when my family started to become poor or something. In grade 3, when we started using textbooks at school, and I had zero. I had no textbooks, and I had to be looking out of other children's textbooks. And I was very shy. Coming from kindergarten school, how I was very shy and reserved, and I just learned to keep to myself and stay in a corner. In grade 1, same thing, I never spoke up. Grade 2 is somehow when I learned that speaking up probably did not really make much of a difference. No one was going to hear my voice, listen to me, or do anything. Grade 3 was when I started to feel poor. I was placed in one of the brighter grade 3 classes, but because a lot of bright students were in my class, but I also felt the difference in class when it comes to societal classes. I started to realize that I was poor and other people had money and my family didn't. And I had to do without textbooks. I didn't have any. My teacher would say, like, she kind of cared, but I was not the only person that did not have any textbooks. But I feel like majority of my classmates had their textbooks. One or two of us had to like look into other people's textbooks, and I was in my pride from a long time for ago when at that early age, I just did not feel comfortable looking in other people's textbook. I felt like I would prefer to do without than to just go beg someone like, "Hey, can I look in your textbook to write out the information from it?" So in grade 3, I that is when I stopped really learning, and like I feel like other students were passing me out by the time we reached grade 3 because I didn't have the textbooks to keep up with the rest of the class. So I feel like I started to drop back, as well as my self esteem started to drop back. I started to become slower, less active, less confident, and I started not to believe in myself even more because it felt like, why bother? Because if I don't have the textbooks, why even bother to say I'm going to try to do the work at school? I didn't have the textbook. And by grade 3, teachers at the schools were moving more toward just opening up a textbook and doing the work in the textbook or reading from the textbook. I feel like I just could not participate in classes anymore unless I'm going to have to try and look into someone else's textbook that their parents bought for them. And I was never comfortable in that. So I felt like I was just being left behind, and I felt like there was no real way for me to catch up because I just didn't have any textbook, and it wasn't my fault. As much as I would have loved to read and to read the stories and to write in my maths textbook and my English or whatever textbooks, I just didn't have any. So most of the time I missed out on doing my work. I didn't do any homework because most of our homeworks were in textbooks and I didn't have any. And yeah, that's what grade 3 was like. Grade 3 was the time I started to realize how poor I felt, and I knew that that was going to affect me in society. I knew that there was going to be a divide in how I progressed in society going forward. From grade 3, I knew there was going to be some people that's going to advance and go to big schools and go to colleges, and I wasn't. From grade 3, I realized that that's how my life was going to be. I was not going to get to go to college. I was not going to advance academically. That's how I felt, just because I just didn't have the textbooks in order to assist me in school. So yeah, I didn't learn. I feel like I was eager to learn. I was desperate, but I also felt embarrassed and humiliated because I just couldn't participate in the classes as much, in my grade 3 class, as much as I would have wanted to. And I felt very much in my ego because I remember one day specifically when the teacher, it's like she was so tired, or maybe she couldn't be bothered, because her attitude was like, if you want to look into someone else's book, you can look into someone else. See if someone will, like my teacher was saying, I should see if someone will make me look in their book. So I felt like I just would sit there and not have any work to do and just try to see if any one of the students, because I didn't really have friends, but I would try to see if any one of the students would let me look in their book. But I wasn't going to just force myself to look in someone's book. I do remember someone sharing their book with me at some point in time in classes, but that was about it. That was about it. It wasn't my cup of tea, so I became even more reserved and conserved, and just felt different, and I just felt like I was in a poor class. And I watched in my grade 3 class, I had a set of twin girls in my class, and they were twin, they were pretty and they had money. And other people in the class, they were bright and pretty and they had money. And I felt like, oh, I went home, there was no money. Sometimes I didn't have shoes, I couldn't afford books. I could probably barely afford to make my uniform, not me, to wear to school. And yeah, that was what grade 3 taught me, is that there was like I started to see the shift. And this was affecting not just me, but the whole country, the whole society, the whole world. I realized, no, there was going to be a societal divide. Some people were going to make it, those who had the means, and some people just were going to struggle because they don't have the means to. They can't afford to go to college. They can't afford to progress the way they want to. They cannot afford their textbooks. They cannot learn in school. And I was someone that was always eager to learn. I loved reading from an early age. Remember in episode 1, I spoke about being very bright from kindergarten age. Reading and doing well in school was my forte. It's like I feel like that's what I was made for. I was created to excel in school and to just finish my work fast and just breeze through and get everything right, you know. But in grade 3, yeah, it kind of halted. It put me in my place, and I started to sit amongst those students that were not progressing much, because at that time it was money that was affecting my educational progress and not me myself. It was the fact that they started to bring in textbooks more often now, where we were not just writing from the chalkboard, and we had to go home and open to page 4 and do the work on page 4. So my academical performance, I feel, was affected because of the introduction of textbooks, which I could and my family we could not afford. So I just started to sit back. I was not bringing in any homework, and the teacher understood. She was like, "What can I do? She can't do anything. Your parents need to get you the textbooks, or else how are you gonna learn?" So that's what I dealt with in grade 3, a feeling of poverty. And I felt like I was just subpar and I was not fitting in. And it sort of just defined my life going forward. You know, grade 4 is interesting. So stay tuned for episode 5. Thanks for listening on this journey.